Alright, so today's video will be something different as it won't be geometry. Now, this is for my Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 students. Alright, now today we're going to learn about adding polynomials, subtracting polynomials, and multiplying polynomials. Now, let's start with this question. 6x squared plus 7x plus 8 plus x squared plus 8x plus 7. Now, we're going to add like terms. 6x squared plus 7x squared plus, now we have our 7x plus 8x squared, which is 15x. Then we have our constants 8 and 7. Next up, we have this question, which looks hard, but this follows the same rule as the first one. So first of all, we're going to add like terms. So you can see there's no exponent for x to the fourth in this one over here, so leave it by itself. 7x to the fourth. Now let's see, 15x cubed. Again, there's none over there. 15x cubed, I mean. Now let's move on to our 8. Now our 8 will go here, and then we have plus x left. Now, when you write out your polynomials, it will be from left to right. Left will start from the greatest exponent to the smallest exponent. 4, 3, 1, and 0. Or I should say none, actually. Now, using what we've learned, let's take a second and pause the video to solve this question. Alright, now that you're back, let's read it out. 10x to the 6th plus 5x to the 5th plus 3x plus 8 plus x to the 6th plus 11x to the 5th plus 11. Alright, so let's add our like terms. 10x to the 6th plus x to the 6th, which is 11x to the 6th. Then we have our exponent 5. 5x to the 5th, while we have 11x to the 5th, let's add those together, plus 16x to the 5th. Alright, let's move on to 3x. Now, we see that there are no x to the exponent 1 on the right side, so leave it as it is. Boom. Now, moving on to our final one, our constants. We have two constants here, 8 and 11, plus 19. So, we arrive at 11x to the 6th plus 16x to the 5th plus 3x plus 19. Now, this wasn't so hard as it seemed. Alright, so now let's move on to subtracting polynomials. Same thing, we're going to subtract like terms. We have x squared and 6x squared. Now, if you look at this, there's a subtraction. Now, think of it as there is a visible 1 next to it. Now, let's distribute this negative 1. So first, let's write out this left area. Plus 1 minus 6x squared minus 2. Now, let me just clear up some space real quick. Alright. Then we'll add these like terms now. X squared minus 6x squared, which is going to be negative 5x squared. Alright. Now we have a x to exponent 1. Yet we don't have any of that, so we'll leave it as it is. Plus x. We have our constants, plus 1 and negative 2, which is negative 1. That this is our answer. Now, let me clear up some more space for this question down below. Alright, so like we did earlier, let's first of all let me just write this out first. Alright, so now there's an invisible 1 here, and now we're going to distribute -1 minus 5x to the 4th plus x to the 3rd. When you multiply a negative by a negative, it makes a positive. Let's add the like terms now. We have 6x to the 4th, and we have negative 5x to the 4th, which we will get x to the 4th. Okay, so now we have x squared, which we have nothing here. X squared. And we have our constant plus 10. Then we have our cubed x, which is here. Now, this cannot be your answer, as we have to put them from left to right, from greatest to least exponent. So we have x fourth, our biggest exponent. Then we have x third, our second biggest, and likewise x squared, our third, and finally 10. To end off subtracting polynomials, I'll give you this final question, and you guys will do it yourself, and then come back and I'll reveal the answer. Alright, so now that you're back, let's read it out loud. 7x to the 5th plus x cubed plus 8 minus x to the 4th minus 3x to the 3rd, or 3x to the cubed. Now, let's write out our left side. Now, moving on to our right side. Put an invisible 1 here. Alright, let's distribute -1. -1 times x to the 4th is negative x to the 4th, while -1 times negative 3x to the 3rd into the cubed, 3x cubed, will be plus 3x to the 3rd. Now we're going to add the like terms. We have x to the 5th, then we have minus x to the 4th, then we have plus 4x to the 3rd plus 8. Alright, now this is in order from least to greatest. So we have the biggest polynomial, not polynomial, biggest exponent, and then we have the smallest exponent. Now, before we start multiplying polynomials, when multiplying exponents to one another, like this question, some people may think that it's 2 times 4, which is completely incorrect. When you multiply two exponents together, you are adding the exponents together. X to 6. Let's begin with these two questions. So for number 1, I'll give you something easy. X minus 6 times x plus 6. Now let's distribute first. First, we're going to distribute our x here and to here. Alright, x times x is x squared, of course. X times 6 is plus 6x. Now let's use our negative 6. Negative 6 times x, negative 6 times 6. Negative 6 times x, 6x, negative 6x, and negative 6x times positive 6 will be minus 36 or negative 36. Alright, now let's add our like terms here. Now these are opposites of one another, so they'll cancel each other out, and we'll be left with x squared minus 36. Now let's move on to something harder. Now let's use 6x squared and distribute it. 1 and 2. So what we learned earlier is that when we multiply two exponents together, we are more so adding them. So 6x cubed times x. 6x to the 3rd, alright? 6x cubed times 3, which will be plus 18x squared. Finally, we have our 1's. 1 times x and 1 times 3 plus x and plus 3. Now, we don't need to add like terms here. Now, to end the video off, let's solve this question. Pause the video, and I'll give you as much time as you need to solve it. Alright, welcome back. Let's begin. So, let's first distribute 6x to the 4th. 6x to the 4th times x squared, 6x to the 4th times 8. So we have 6x 2d. 6, because we are adding the exponents together. Then we distribute 6x to the 4th times 8, which will be 48x to the 4th. And finally, we're going to distribute x cubed to x squared into 8. So x to the 5th, and we'll have 8x squared, x cubed times 8, which will be 8x cubed. Now this won't be our final answer, as we have to arrange it from greatest to least. So 6x to the 6th plus x to the 5th plus 48 x to the 4th, and then plus 8x to the 3rd. Alright, that is all. Thank you guys, and on another video we're gonna do dividing polynomials, which is gonna be much harder than what we've presented in this video, as will require factoring and other stuff. As you get into algebra 1, you'll see.